become a place where they can rear their chicken. So these are because it's free. But the best way to get ownership is they have to pay something, either by money fully or partially, or if not, by sweat equity. And if they know why they are having a toilet, the chances are they will maintain it, they behave properly. But that's still very rational thinking. We must understand sanitation is about habit change. It's not just about supply. So people are more irrational than rational. We all know that because when you go to a shopping center, they buy the things they don't need with money they don't have to impress the people they don't like. So this is how human beings behave even when they are poor. So if you were to try to sell them toilet, you have to sell them aspiration. So a toilet, when you open the toilet door, it's not a toilet. It opens to your future. It opens to your children graduating, your daughters getting married with dignified families who have toilets, the community recognize you, your wife having privacy from the prying eye of other men. And if the man cannot be convinced because he don't care about the woman, you can also convince him that actually it hurts your macho because the other men are thinking of having sex with your wife. It's not very nice to you. So if you can sell them, whatever reason, filial piety, are you a good child? You know, your grandmother is going out to be bitten by the snakes in the bush, and do you feel nice if she go out in the rain? And are you a filial child? These are good marketing tools. Jealousy is very good marketing tools. You have toilets, then make it nice and let them brag about it. Put some nice rangoli on the wall or whatever. Make people brag, you know. Mine is purple, yours is orange, and she don't have, ha ha ha. And then she will buy. So important thing is to instigate people emotionally, aspirationally, any method. Human beings have plenty of emotion. Shame is one way, jealousy another way, filial piety, pride, ego, macho. It all works. Yeah.
Thank you. I've actually seen that in action. I remember a household in Lesotho up in the highlands where there's one household that just refused to build a toilet. And over a period of time, they got it, that they were part of the community, and all these issues of jealousy, pride, ownership became very, very important. And a year later, when I visited, the woman grabbed me and took me to her toilet, and she opened it like she was opening a very, very special vault. And it had been painted red, and there was a photograph, a picture actually hanging above the seat. And the entire family was using it. And these were toilets in which they were actually being sold and no longer being given away free. Sheila?
I like what you were saying about doing it, encouraging men with different things. But there's nothing more powerful than a woman persistently wanting a toilet. And what we do, we've realized that in rural areas, there have been many campaigns which have, where you talked about Anita, where there are villages in Maharashtra where people say if there's no toilet in the houses where the girls are getting married, we won't get our daughters married. There's a big campaign. So in rural areas, that works very well. In urban areas, what we found is if people don't have houses that are larger than 250 square feet or 21 square meters, if they don't have access to some sort of drainage and sewage that will take the fecal matter away, and they don't have water, they shouldn't have toilets inside their homes. You know, we either go, everybody should have an individual toilet, or everybody should do this. The physical reality of having a toilet that doesn't work next to a kitchen is worse than open defecation, and studies have proved that. So what we recommend is for communities to make that assessment themselves. And we usually negotiate with municipalities to say, let the municipality pay for the capital cost of construction, and for communities to collaborate and pay for the operation and maintenance. And we use philanthropic resources to build a community center on top of the toilet. Cities don't usually give us money to do that. But those precious spaces, however small they are, end up being places where people have marriages and their ceremonies, and they make a contribution. But its most important thing is it transforms something that's dirty into a community space that is lighted, open, and accessible to everybody. We find that young children are a very important feature of motivation. We make young people do surveys of who goes to toilets where. And it's amazing how sheepish adults feel when children ask them these questions. And that's a big way of stopping open defecation and encouraging more people. The other thing is, we always encourage when there are community toilets to have a person who manages and maintains it, usually a family who's given a space to stay there. And very closely connected to sanitation is hygiene. And all of you may know about the WASH campaign, which says that if people just wash their hands with soap and water after defecation, it transforms the health indicators. So we train the person there to say, "Eh, haath dhoya ke nahi?" And it's like a public announcement that forces the habit change that you talk about. So these are all small tips that have now become standardized. And this is the model that Shack Dwellers International also uses internationally. And we find that you have to negotiate with national governments, because every government can be forced politically to provide some subsidies to provide sewage processes. We go after technology issues to look at decentralized management of sewers, because now most cities find it very expensive to provide centrally networked sewers. There are only 200 cities in India that have sewers. The others don't even have sewers. So there are all these supply side issues that you have to politically negotiate and pressure for, but you also have to work at the bottom. So I think both sides are needed, and we try and create organizations of poor people who can do both.
I know your work and I love your work. I think it's one of the most remarkable, persistent spread of successful approaches. I think two of the elements that, if you could speak a bit more about what you just mentioned, one is the importance or why people's organizations are important. And the second is this whole notion of seeing community toilets as an asset, as an economic asset.
You know, one of the things that are not discussed much in development is how much we make objects of people we want to support. And I have not enough words to tell you how dangerous that is and how unsustainable it makes your investments. And yet, whether it's the international aid networks or the global foundations or local organizations, we're all focused on projects. You want to deliver a project, and then you look at it, you look at outputs, outcomes, whatever measurement tools you have, and then you walk away happy. You don't realize what happens after you leave. So the most important thing for me in the development process is to create constituencies that can champion the assets that you produce to support them in what their aspirations are for. And that you can only do if you create organizations that you give the same networking capacity that all of you talked in the earlier process. You talk about networking yourselves. You talk about networking other people who do good. But it's also important to network communities, because individual communities get isolated, they get bored of what they do, and they usually abandon whatever deliverables you've given. So networking people, making them champions of change is very important, and that's what we believe in. The other thing is, there's no point in making any investments if the people don't see what is being invested in as an asset. If it's just something that's thrown their way, they'll also throw it away. So whether it's by making them pay or making them participate in the design or creating systems by which they can earn something out of it, and actually documenting the innovations that they produce. We have a community center in Mumbai where people have opened study classes for children, because that space on top is where young people come and people volunteer to teach math and English and other things. Other people have put a television and they charge something for anybody who wants to come and raise money for themselves. They've invited health people to come and do immunization. So it becomes something that adds value and makes them show that they're also organizers and they're also entrepreneurs. And they're not just mechanically going to the toilet and using it. It has to be, there always has to be something plus to what you produce. So 2 and 2 have to make 22.
Thank you. I think in terms of philanthropy, one of the most invisible and under-invested resources or assets that makes development work, particularly for poor people, is poor people's organizations. Exactly what you said, networks. Outsiders come and want to use and deplete the organizations, but because it's a public good in a sense, or a collective good, it's underinvested in. And for philanthropists, whether you're trying to deliver education or reach adolescent girls or build toilets or distribute soap, it's really, really important. Rathi?
Just 2 points from taking off from what Sheila said. I think a lot of us in the room have foundations or are philanthropists. But like I'm sure a lot of you, we also support the traditional issues of education, of healthcare, which are issues that need to be focused on and supported in our country. But we took a sort of a strategic decision when we set up our foundation that at least 20% of our support and our funding would be to the not so sexy, not so traditional issues. And of course, much of giving is always fueled by personal passions. And there are 2 issues that we decided to support. One was this issue of sanitation, which I believe we do not get enough. I believe that enough philanthropists or givers or donors in our country do not take seriously. We all know the data, we all know the statistics, we read all these media reports, but I don't think we do enough. We tend to be doing much more on the areas of education, in the areas of health, but I'm not so sure about areas of sanitation. That's just number 1. And number 2, I really do very, very much subscribe to the view that Sheila talked about sustainability in whatever we are looking at. So again, as philanthropists and givers, we look at projects into inverted commas, we measure outcomes and impact, but what about the sustainability of them? And I've got even more interested in that issue because I'm currently doing a master's at Cambridge, and my theme is sustainability leadership, and every one of the assignments and research work that we do revolves around sustainability. So I think all of us need to look at not just projects. I agree so very much with what you're saying, because 2 years down the road, when you go back to that same project or site, you see the deterioration, or because the community has not been involved or people have not been involved right from the word go.
We're in a room full of both entrepreneurs and philanthropists. 2 sentences. What would your pitch be to a philanthropist?
To teach them to fish and not to give them fish. In this case, to teach them to build toilets in order, instead of giving them toilets. We have a Sani Shop micro-franchise model, which we train the poor to be entrepreneurs, and then they know how to produce toilet locally using local materials, so they don't import anything. We give them the knowledge, and that creates 3 masons jobs, and another 3 jobs of sales girls in the village. So the woman housewife, And the best ones are the gossipers because they have influential power in the village. And we ask them to sell toilets for this entrepreneur, and they take commission from the entrepreneur, $2 for every toilet they sell. And the entrepreneurs make $5, and among them 7, $32 for each family. And this is very profitable, and it creates jobs, and they will run it continuously, sustainably. And the investment for each Sani shop is $1,000 for one factory. So the training is the one that the philanthropists will need to subsidize, to fund. And once the trainer goes there for 2 months, they understood how to run, we move to another place. So this whole branding, very scalable model. And the 1,000 we do not give them. We ask them to raise their own fund to run their own business. So the only thing we give them is the knowledge. And that works very well. We started in Bhubaneswar. 3 months ago, 9,000 toilets are already sold, and we are training more entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
I think that my first request would be a challenge to those of you who are interested in it to create a sort of a network or a group that champions sanitation. And I volunteer to do whatever I can to help you meet people, learn about this, and decide what you want to do. So my first thing is get into the process and understand it and look at its various dimensions, and you could end up supporting him or doing something else. The second very important thing is none of these processes happen within the framework of a 3-year project. In the 28 years that I'm doing this work, I have to lie, cheat, and steal to get money. I have to pretend I'm doing a project when I'm actually supporting a process. I have to create indicators that are actually superficial and useless. But if I tell the foundation the truth, they'll run away. So I look for increasingly people who come into this process as partners in an engagement with cities, with state governments, with communities and ourselves, and make a contribution to what is actually a multifaceted investment program. So if you have the patience and the courage to do this, you get very serious outcomes, and you can be very proud of what you do. But it's not a simple, quick, and easy journey. You'll get the first 20,000, and then you'll hit a wall. Because the wall is the supply side advocacy that you have to do in parallel to this. And I promise you that as a bunch of people, you can make a lot of noise with municipalities, state governments, and national governments. You all come from prestigious institutions. You just have to say sanitation, toilets, shit in public discourses, and you will find it gets a lot of traction.
Thank you.